There is one single document that most veterans have never filed, and the day they pass away, their surviving spouse can lose almost everything because of it. It costs nothing. It takes about 15 minutes to start. And for the families who handle it in time, it can mean more than $1,000 protected every single month for the rest of their life. Before I show you exactly which document and how to file it, subscribe right now and hit the bell. The rules around veteran survivor benefits change constantly, and when they change, the VA does not send you a personal letter. Subscribers find out in time. The ones who are not find out after the funeral, after the deadline, after the money is already gone. The document is your VA service-connected disability claim, and the form that controls it is VA Form 21526EZ. It is free. It lives at va.gov. And if you are a veteran who has never filed it or started it and never finished, this is the single most important thing standing between your spouse and financial security after you are gone. Here is why this one claim has the power to protect your spouse for the rest of their life. I want to explain this clearly because it is the part most people do not understand. When a veteran dies, the VA pays a monthly benefit to the surviving spouse called Dependency and Indemnity Compensation DIC for short. In 2026, that benefit is $1,699.36 every single month, and it is completely tax-free. The surviving spouse files for it on a separate form, VA Form 21P534EZ. But here is the catch almost nobody explains, that $1,699.36 is not automatic. The VA only pays it if the veteran's death is connected to their military service. And the only clean way to prove that connection without your spouse fighting the VA for years is if you established your service-connected disability while you were still alive. Let me put real numbers on what is at stake. $1,699.36 a month is $20,392 a year. Over a 20-year retirement, that is more than $407,000, and that figure does not even include the cost of living raises that push it higher every single year. That is what a surviving spouse stands to receive, and that is exactly what they can lose if there is no established service connection on file when the veteran dies. And here is the part that makes it worse. There is a rule most veterans have never heard of, the 10-year rule. If the VA rates you totally disabled and you hold that rating continuously for 10 years before you pass, your spouse can qualify for DIC even if you eventually die of something completely unrelated to your service. 10 years of a locked-in rating becomes a permanent shield for your spouse. But that 10-year clock does not start until you file. There is also a 5-year rule for veterans rated totally disabled from the time of discharge, and a 1-year rule for former prisoners of war. Every year you wait to file is a year none of these clocks are running, and a year of protection your spouse can never get back. There is one more thing that makes this even bigger than most people realize. For decades, there was a cruel offset. If a spouse received DIC from the VA, their military survivor benefit plan annuity got reduced dollar for dollar. Families effectively got punished for qualifying for both. That offset was fully eliminated on January 1, 2023. Today, a surviving spouse can receive their full survivor benefit plan payment and their full DIC payment at the same time. Which means the difference between a veteran who established service connection and one who did not is no longer a few $100s for many families. It is the entire monthly survivor income, stacked on top of the pension. And understand this clearly, the VA does not do any of this for you. There is no automatic review. There is no alert. There is no letter that arrives saying, file this now so your spouse is protected. The system simply waits. The data sits. And if a veteran passes without ever establishing that service connection, the surviving spouse is left trying to prove a link to a service record from decades ago, often with the veteran no longer there to help fill in the gaps. Most of the time, that fight is lost, not because the spouse did anything wrong, because nobody filed the one document while there was still time to do it properly. So who is most likely to be affected by this? Listen closely, because one of these is probably you. Veterans who never bothered to file. You served, you came home, you got on with your life, and you figured the aches and the exposure were just part of the deal. You are exactly the veteran the VA never reaches out to, and your spouse is the one who pays for that silence later. Veterans rated below 100% who stopped pushing. You got a partial rating years ago and left it there. If your conditions have worsened, you may now qualify for a total rating, and that total rating is what starts the 10-year clock that protects your spouse. Vietnam, Gulf War, and burn pit era veterans. Toxic exposure claims that were once denied are now presumptive under newer law. A no from years ago may be a yes today, and that changes everything for your survivor. Older veterans married to a younger spouse. The longer your spouse is likely to outlive you, the more that $1,699.36 a month compounds over their remaining years. For you, establishing service connection is not optional, it is the largest financial gift you can leave behind. Veterans who already have the survivor benefit plan. You did the right thing electing SBP, but since the 2023 offset repeal, your spouse can now receive SBP and DEC in full. Together, if you have not established service connection, you are leaving half of that combined protection on the table. If you saw yourself in even one of those groups, do not click away. The next part is the real example of what this looks like when it goes right and when it goes wrong. Here is a real example of what this looks like. A Vietnam-era veteran, a quiet man who worked construction after the service, lived for years with breathing problems he always blamed on the job site dust. He never connected it to his time overseas, and he never filed a claim, because in his words, he didn't want to make a fuss. His wife only learned what was possible after he passed, when a veteran service officer at the funeral home asked one simple question: did he ever file for service connection? He had not. And because nothing was ever established, her DIC claim turned into a 2-year paper fight to prove a link to a record from half a century earlier. She eventually won, and her check came out to $1,699.36 every single month for the rest of her life. But she spent 2 years and countless sleepless nights getting there. 2 years he could have spared her with one form, filed while he was still alive to sign it. So here is exactly what to do. No guessing. Step 1, lock your date first. Go to va.gov and submit an intent to file. This takes minutes and freezes today's date as your effective date, which can protect retroactive back pay later. Do this before anything else. Step 2, file the claim. On va.gov, start VA Form 21526EZ, the application for disability compensation. This is the one document this entire video is about. Look for the section to add your conditions. Step 3, list every condition. Add each service-connected issue, even the ones you have ignored for years: hearing, breathing, back, mental health, toxic exposure. Do not self-edit. List them all. Step 4, gather your evidence. Pull your service records, your medical records, and any nexus statement from a doctor linking the condition to your service. The stronger the link on paper, the cleaner it is for your spouse later. Step 5, push toward a total rating if you can. If you are already rated but your conditions have worsened, file for an increase. A continuous total rating is what starts the 10-year shield for your spouse. Step 6, brief your spouse for the future. Make sure they know that after your passing, they must file VA Form 21P534EZ for DIC and report the death to DFAs at 800-321-1080 to start the survivor benefit plan. Write those 2 things down where they will find them. Here is something most people do not know. That intent to file you submitted in Step 1 can preserve your effective date for up to a year, which means even if it takes you months to gather paperwork, your benefits can still be backdated. So there is no reason to wait until everything is perfect. Start the clock today. Most people spend more time choosing what to watch on TV tonight than they have ever spent on the one form that decides whether their spouse is taken care of for the rest of their life after they are gone. And every month that passes without filing, that 10-year protection clock does not start on its own, it simply sits at 0, quietly costing your family time they cannot buy back later. The rules will not get simpler, and the records will not get younger. This is worth 15 minutes. Go to va.gov, submit your intent to file, start Form 21526EZ, and list every condition you can. If you are already rated and things have gotten worse, file for an increase. That is the whole thing. Do it while you are still the one who can sign your name. Subscribe. Share this with a veteran or a military spouse you care about. The 15 minutes you spend today could protect every single check your family receives for the rest of their life.